Hi there, my name is Jack Wallen and I'm here again with another Linux 101. I don't know why I keep doing that with my hand, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. So I want to add a little preface here before I get into this. Okay, you just said the same preface on my previous video that I filmed today. No, I filmed yesterday, published today. Okay, so here it is. In my 2 videos ago, I had some comments from some people who were referred to my channel because they were watching other technical videos, whether it be developer or admin or Linux videos, whatever. And they happened upon some of my other videos, my non-technical videos. Well, let me explain. This channel is broken into 2 parts. The first part I've been doing for about a decade. And that started out as a little series called Me and My Muse, wherein I sat down and I had conversations with my muse about whatever I was writing at the time. Because if you don't know, I'm a novelist, as well as all sorts of other things. But that eventually evolved into a series of videos wherein I helped artists navigate this world, because let's face it, it's not easy being an artist in this world. And eventually that sort of evolved again into simply helping humans. And it was only recently that I started the Linux 101 portion of my channel. And I actually hesitated doing this for a very long time because I write about Linux a lot. And I didn't want there to be any sort of issues with publications I work with or whatever. But anyway, I finally decided it was time for me to do this Linux 101 series. And here you have it. So if you are a fan of technology, especially Linux, and you come to my channel and you see all of my videos, the ones that will interest you, the titles always start with Linux 101. If, on the other hand, you want to just see more about what makes me tick and maybe get some advice for life, you can view the other videos. Just understand that they're not going to be technically centered. However, I believe next week I'm going to do one about AI that you might be interested in. Anyway, let's get to the subject at hand. Today I want to talk about AppImages. We've already talked about the regular package managers like apt, and we'll get more into that later. And we've talked about snap and flatpak, which are universal package managers. Well, there's another universal package manager called AppImages. AppImages have been around for a long time. And years ago, when I first stumbled onto AppImages, I didn't like them. I didn't like them at all. And the primary reason I didn't like them is because you downloaded the app, the file, which ended in AppImage, and you had to give it permission to run. And then when you wanted to run the app, you had to either open up your file manager, navigate to where the file is being housed, and if you've set it up right, you double click on it and the app opens. Or you have to run it from the command line. So you would open up the terminal window, you would change into the directory that houses the AppImages, and then you could run the command like, / whatever, audacity.appimage, or whatever the file was, and the app would open. And that was really inconvenient. And I know you're probably saying, well, a lot about Linux is kind of inconvenient. Well, it was. It was. And back in the day when I was first started using Linux, or in the middle of my Linux experience, I was okay with having to take extra steps to do whatever it was that I needed to do, because I just assumed that that was part and parcel to the gig. And it didn't bother me at all, and I just did my thing. But now, I need to work efficiently, and I need things to just work, which is another reason why I've pretty much stopped distro hopping. I usually only use distributions that are that are very easy and efficient and complete. And I don't compile things from source anymore. I don't do those things because mostly I don't have time. On top of which, there's always an easier way. And that's one of the beautiful things about Linux, is when you use Linux, you know that there are two paths you can follow. You can follow the challenging path, or you can follow the easy path. Some love to be challenged. I love to be challenged, but I love to be challenged in a way that's not going to keep me from getting my work done in time, because I'm incredibly busy. I write a lot. And the easy path is just easy. You know, it's like, here's an example. So I was trying to decide on another Linux distribution to review for next week. And I thought, you know what, it's time for me to jump on and install Gentoo again and review it. And then it had been so very long. So I jumped onto the handbook for installing Gentoo, and I was like, I don't have time for this. I just don't. I'm not going to spend all day getting this thing up and running only to write a review that's going to take me an hour to write, and then I'm done with it. So instead I went to Ubuntu Mate. I'm going to review that for next week. But that's beside the point. I'm getting off track. I apologize. AppImages. So essentially what an app image is it's a containerized application. So it has everything you need to run the application in the file. Unlike Snap and Flatpak, where you have to actually install that containerized image. So you would do like Snap install Audacity or Flatpak install Audacity. Of course, with Snap, you do sudo snap install Audacity. Well, our app images are different. There's no installation. You download the app, you make sure it has permission, and then you run it. That's it. They're a very handy way to run an app. And this is important, just like it's important with Snap and Flatpak. Thanks to AppImages, there are a lot more applications available for Linux that otherwise might not be available. I have found several AppImages, especially like from big companies that offer apps for like their products or just apps in general, maybe for their service. And the only option they have for Linux are AppImages. You can't install some of those from your default package manager. They don't have a Snap package. They don't have a Flatpak package. They just have AppImages. And that's great. That's great because it gives us another route for installing applications, and it makes more applications available to us. And that is really important, because if you've been around Linux long enough, which I have, you'll remember way back in the early days, there was not a whole lot of software available that the general public could use. Sure, there was tons of software that the scientific community could use, that developers could use, that engineers could use, but there wasn't a whole lot of just basic applications. And that was a big problem. The reason why it was a big problem is because it was really hard to get other people to use Linux, because they would say, well, what kind of apps does it have available? And you'd be like, well, it has this and this and this, but does it have this? No, it doesn't. Fast forward to now, and we have a host of applications, thanks to default package managers, to universal package managers, and AppImages. Now, here's the thing. And this is really the focus of what I want to talk about. Remember what I said earlier about how when I first started using AppImages and stopped using AppImages because they weren't exactly convenient? Because, oh, I've got to open up the file manager every time I want to run the application, or I have to open up the terminal window when I run around the application, and blah, 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 blah. Well, there's a little application that you can install called GearLever. GearLever is available as a Flatpak package. So any distribution that supports Flatpak, which is most of them, can install GearLever. So like Flatpak install GearLever. Or you can just go to FlatHub, search for GearLever, and it'll tell you how to install it. What does GearLever do that's so special? Well now, I'm going to demonstrate to you right there. Essentially what you do is you download an AppImage file, regardless of, it doesn't matter what it is, AppImage file. And you save it to a directory. Like I have a folder called AppImages in downloads. So I save the file in AppImages. And then I open up GearLever. Or actually, no, I don't open up GearLever. You can do it that way. You can open up GearLever and then add the AppImage. But even better, you can open up your file manager, navigate to that AppImage file, double click on it, and GearLever will open automatically. Now, when GearLever opens, you click the unlock button, and then you click, I think it's add to menu. What that does is adds a menu entry for that AppImage app into your desktop menu. So instead of having to go to your file manager or command line to run that app, you can run it from your desktop menu. Of course, you can also just click launch and it'll open up the AppImage. And the interesting thing is that what it does, I don't know the complete technical aspect of it, but essentially what GearLever does is it moves that AppImage to another directory that it knows about, that it's aware of. So it can make your desktop aware of it. So when you click add to menu, you'll notice that in the file manager, that file that you download is gone. It wasn't deleted, it was just moved so that your desktop menu can access it. And the cool thing is, it doesn't matter what desktop you use. There are exceptions, of course, because some desktops, some like window managers require you to add entries to the desktop menu manually, like through a flat text file. But like the typical like GNOME, KDE Plasma, Pop! OS, Cosmic, I guess it's just called Cosmic Desktop, XFCE, I think XFCE will do it, Cinnamon, Mate, all the major desktops, Budgie, you know the ones, Elementary OS, they will automatically add the AppImage entry into the desktop menu. And let me tell you, GearLever has been a godsend. By using this app, I do not hesitate to use AppImages at all. If I see an AppImage, I'll download it and I'll double click on it, GearLever will do its thing, and there I am. It's great. In fact, I would say that of all of the small Linux utilities I have found over the past few years, GearLever is probably one of the best. Because it does exactly what you expect it to, it does it well, and it makes using AppImages incredibly easy and repeatable. And efficient. Let's face it, in today's incredibly busy world, efficiency is so important. And that's another one of the beauties of Linux. And I know that I said that there are two kind of lanes that you can take with Linux, the hard and the easy lane. But regardless of which lane you choose with Linux, you can make that distribution that you're using as efficient as you need it to be. You can't do that with Windows or Mac OS. You can't. Not like you can with Linux. And GearLever and AppImages is just another example of that, along with an example of the flexibility found in Linux that you'll never find in any other operating system, period. That's just the way it is. Linux is incredibly flexible. It's really one of the many reasons why I have used Linux for so long, because anytime I run into something that I need to be able to do, or if I need to do something a particular way, I can make it happen with Linux. I've tried it with other operating systems, and most often I fail at it. I'm sure there are ways to do it with Windows and Mac OS, but and Mac OS is probably a little easier. I've dabbled with Windows. It's been a very long time since I've taken Windows seriously, but the last time I had actually tried to do something specific with Windows, I got really frustrated, and I thought, I can do this really easily with Linux. Why can't I do it with Windows? But back to AppImages. If you ever come across an application that only has an app image, do not hesitate to use it. But take the time to install GearLever so that using that app is exponentially easier. I think on my desktop, my Pop! OS desktop right now, obviously I have apt. I have installed Snap. It came with Flatpak, and I use GearLever. So it's a rare occasion that I find an application that I need to install that I can't. I did review a pair of earbuds this week. I can't remember the brand, but they were called Game Buds, and usually with earbuds you can download the associated application on your mobile device, and a lot of times you can customize EQ and things like that. Well, this particular one, you couldn't customize the EQ from within the app. You had to customize the EQ on the desktop and then export it into the app. Well, guess what? The company only made that desktop app available for Mac OS and Windows. What the heck? Come on, people. It's 2025. Make it available for Linux, okay? Really. It's not that hard. It really isn't. If you have the time to develop an app for Windows or Mac OS, you have the time to develop it for Linux. Yeah, we're probably never going to see Adobe. We're never going to see Adobe Creative Suite run on Linux. I wish we would. If that were the case, I'd buy a license. And I would imagine that any Linux user who needs to create things like that are created with Adobe Creative Suite would also buy a license. But no, Adobe said nay, nay. I don't know why. I don't know why they're so adamantly against making a version of that for Linux, but oh well. We have GIMP. We have GIMP. And you can install GIMP. How? apt, DNF, Pacman, Snap, Flatpak. You can't install GIMP with an app image though. That's the thing. You're not going to find an app image for everything you need. But when you do find them, you now know which application to install and use to make it much, much easier. Now, here's another thing I want to say. If you get on your search engine like DuckDuckGo and you search for Linux app images, you'll initially see appimage.org, I think is what it is. That's a site where developers can learn about creating app images. There are some repositories for app images available where you can, search for an application or whatever. Be careful with those. I don't know how much vetting goes on with those sites, so I could not tell you whether or not those app images are safe to use. And that, in this day and age, you've got to be careful, even with Linux. Don't just grab any app image you find and use it, because you never know if there's malicious code inside that app image. If a known company offers an app image for their app or service or whatever, pretty good bet that it's safe. But if some random site houses AppImages, you just don't know. So be careful. Even with an application like GearLever, it does not check to see if the app is safe. It's just going to blindly add it and you're done. Be careful. Just because you're using Linux doesn't mean you shouldn't use a modicum of caution. Anyway, that's all I've got on AppImages. I hope that using the GearLever app helps you. I hope you'll no longer hesitate to use AppImages because they are a really good source of applications and they're easy to use. Anyway, thank you again for giving me a little bit of your time. I know it's precious and there's an awful lot of stuff out there to view, and I greatly appreciate you coming here and giving me your time. And most importantly, I hope that you and everyone you know and love have a wonderful, wonderful day.